Hey, it's the Nerdy Sports Fan. We're into Week 9 NFL action. So that means make sure to hit the Nerdy Sports Fan Weekly for our opening round of power rankings, as we've reached the halfway point for every team now. Let's get into this matchup. We have the Chicago Bears visiting the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, neither team has had the season they would have preferred to have, but, Philadelphia definitely had a bounce back when they went into Buffalo and beat a surprisingly strong Buffalo Bills team. So, I think Philadelphia has the leg up in this game. I think that because, Chicago's offense has been terrible. And it took until last week for Mr. Nagy to realize that he had a running back. So, does the trend of the rest of the season continue, or do we just gauge Chicago off of what they did last week and last week alone? I think you have to think of season trends. Eventually, people fall back on old bad habits. So, I just think the lure of the passing game, even though he's got a shit-ass quarterback, is too much for Nagy. So, they have no faith in their quarterback anymore organizationally. Mitch Trubisky is the latest absolute bust of a first-round quarterback. He's terrible. And, considering most of the country thought they should have drafted Deshaun Watson, yeah. It might be the move that gets the GM fired. The coach has to make a name for himself. Mr. Nagy needs to show the ownership that he's not the one to blame. Now, I don't know who was pounding the table for Mitchell frickin' Trubisky in that front office. But whoever was making all that noise, they're going to get canned this offseason. One of them, the GM or the coach, is going. That's not happening in Philly land, okay? The ownership kind of knows the team's a little streaky. They also know they won a Super Bowl recently with this coaching staff and this quarterback. So, yeah, he wasn't the quarterback that actually won the game. That was Mr. Foles. But this quarterback was a big part in getting them there. So, I see an organization with confidence in the direction they're moving forward in versus an organization with none of that. And it's all wrapped up in quarterbacks. Carson Wentz is definitely in charge of this team, whereas Mitchell Trubisky, they'd sell him for scrap parts at this point. So, fantasy football-wise, David Montgomery might actually be usable now. Weird. He's still a risk play. You can't just gauge what Montgomery did last week. You got to see it happen again. I've had him on my bench for most of the season, hoping this day would come, but he's going to ride that bench for at least one more week until I see consistent use of David Montgomery. Start no receiving targets or Mitchell Trubisky. If you're thinking of that, just stop playing fantasy football. The Bears defense, I officially dropped. They're still owned by 90% of leagues. 97 actually, but they're not good. They're not good because the offense is terrible. If the offense could sustain drives, stay on the field long enough to rest this defense would be extremely strong. But the offense is so bad, they keep the defense on the field so long that they're just not worth holding on to anymore. I have dropped the Bears in favor of the Eagles and the Saints defenses. Somehow the Saints were available. Don't know. I don't get it. But for me, the Saints were available. They're owned in like 80+% of leagues, so I doubt you're going to be able to get them. But if you can, snap them up. Now that Drew Brees is back, and you know that the backup quarterback is solid, there's no reason to think that offense is going to be overworking the defense for the Saints. I also picked up Philly's defense, mostly because they're going up against the Bears' offense, which is terrible. So they're going to get turnovers. They're going to have a low score in this game. The Bears haven't shown they can put up points, period. So I start Philly's defense. Obviously, I dropped Chicago's defense to use them. I start Jordan Howard. He's going to be a 10-plus point running back. He's the play. They are going to use him to tire out this defense and make it so they have no chance of stopping any bit of the running game in the fourth quarter. They're going to use the template that they used against Buffalo because Buffalo's strength was their defense. And I happen to think that the Bills' offense is better equipped than the Bears' offense. And the Bills' defense maybe not as much as the Bears, but if Philly can do to Buffalo in Buffalo what they did, they can do to the Bears the exact same thing. I would expect Jordan Howard to get fed and be the sledgehammer that keeps on pounding this defense until they finally give in late in the game. So he needs to be started. Alshon Jeffrey needs to be in your lineup, but really since his injury, he's been a flex play, wide receiver 3 kind of option. Aguilar's a chump. That guy drops too many balls. I mean, 1 week he's going to look like a wide receiver 2. The next week you're going to want to cut him. So don't bother with Aguilar. You're going to find more consistent options like Christian Kirk available in the league. Carson Wentz is solid. He really is. Started. He does not have consistent options anymore. Zach Ertz, you used to think that he was the security blanket and going to draw all sorts of targets, but Dallas Goedert's been outworking him in this offense. So Zach Ertz got offered recently. Weird. So he's not an every week tight end 1 like we thought. Glad I drafted Kelsey instead of him. But yeah, Dallas Goedert, you need to pick him up in tight end week leagues. Dallas Goedert needs to be owned and started in every league at this point, even over Ertz in my mind. Ertz has tailed off, Goedert has come up, and that dynamic might stay exactly that way the rest of the season. As soon as Deshaun Jackson becomes healthy, he becomes the number 1 option for this offense, and this offense gets righted, and they're right back in Super Bowl contention. But that hasn't seemed to happen just yet. So maybe in a few weeks. But definitely start Carson Wentz. Definitely start Dallas Goedert and Jordan Howard. Alshon Jeffrey is a flex play. This is a 4.5 point line. The Eagles are favored by that much, and I don't think that's near where it needs to be. I think they win by at least a touchdown, so I bet the Eagles in this game all day, and will laugh all the way to the bank with that money. Yeah, the Bears are just not a good team right now. There's no consistency, and they've only got 1 week where they figured out that they have a running back, and we're just kind of hoping that they continue that. I just don't see it because Matt Nagy has not shown that to be a trend for him. That's what I have for this game, guys. Hit up the Nerdy Sports Fan Weekly for our first ever power ranking. Hit up the rest of the videos for more fantasy football sit and start advice.